if you're like me and you've been getting hold of some Scarlet and Violet era cards since the release, right, of the Scarlet and Violet era, then you can make good return on grading those cards. Today we're looking at a bunch of Scarlet and Violet era cards where if you get them graded and they do come back in their PSA 10, you can make a ton of money. Now apparently it is tougher to get PSA 10s, but that makes it even more impressive because these are gaining a ton of value, and in some cases we see cards where you can 10x your money. It's absolutely crazy. Let's jump into it. Alright, so today we're taking a look at PokeJace.io at all things Scarlet and Violet and grading cards. So first off, we have the Obsidian Flames Charizard SIR. Beautiful card, by the way. You can pick this up relatively cheap. Like either you can open up some Obsidian Flames where the pull rates aren't too bad, or you can pick this card up, as you can see, from around $40, right? $40-$45. Card market says 70, but over here in the UK you can pick this up for anywhere between 40 and 50 pounds, which is pretty decent. So let's take a look at the prices here. So as you can see from the green line, this is the PSA 10 price, which is pretty tasty. So we take a look at the graded prices. You can give you an indication, right? So the blue is PSA 9, so $62, so not really much, right? But the 10s is $226. I mean, it has been dropping over the past few months, but that's ridiculously impressive, right? We're looking at a card with pretty much more than 5 times the value in the PSA 10. In the Sword and Shield era, now Sword and Shield, you know, you could say, oh, well, there's more valuable cards and whatever, but we've actually seen in Sword and Shield that there are a lot of cards where the PSA 10 price is like $20, $30 more than the raw price. It's just crazy. And in Sword and Shield, it was a lot easier to get 10s. So, you know, try and work that one out. You know, it was a lot easier to get 10s. I've graded a lot of cards in Sword and Shield era. A lot of them did come back in 10s. A lot of them have dropped in value. Is the way it is, right? But if Scarlet and Violet is tougher, we've got some room here. We've got some room here to make some good dosh. We have the Nin Tales from Obsidian Flames. Again, we're looking at really cheap cards. $10, right? Around about $10 for this card. Not that expensive. Just a regular illustration rare. Being a PSA 10, $151. This card is nearly 15 times the value. That is absolutely crazy. Look at this. I mean, you just see the power. I mean, even the PSA 9, it's not doing that great, right? PSA 9, $25. I mean, still doubling your money, but the cost of getting it graded, it's just not worth it, right? If you get a 9. But that's the risk you run. Because if you get a 10, you're doing absolutely incredible. So this is a really interesting one. I've got this in my collection. I wasn't thinking about grading it. Now I'm going to, because if that gets a 10, that's going to be crazy good. Next up, we have the Altaria EX, this time from Paradox Rift. This is the SIR. Beautiful card, by the way. We're looking at this one, right? Raw price, $35, $33 on TCG Player, $33 on Card Market. Again, PSA 10, $176. Absolutely crazy. It has been going up recently as well. And, you know, there's actually more graded in the PSA 10 than the PSA 9. And in the PSA 9, it's only 35. So, again, not really worth the risk. Pretty much across the board, whenever you grade cards, if you get a 9, expect pretty much the value of the card back. So it's not obviously that great. You would technically lose money because you're paying to get it graded. But the chance and the potential to get a 10 and to get $176 back, that's absolutely bonkers. This is a beautiful card. This is one of the cards that's been going up anyway, like raw price, but the PSA price is just really, really good. Next up, we've got Steelix, also from Paradox Rift. This time, this is just a normal special. This one's just a normal illustration rare. This one, raw price, has actually been going up, but again, so has the PSA 10 graded price. So we take a look at this and give you guys an idea, right? So in the PSA, as you can see, PSA 10 has gone from around $80 or so, did drop to around 60, 70, and it's jumped all the way up to 140. So it's doubled in value over the past few months in a PSA 10. And even when we look at the raw price of this card, we can see that the raw price has also gone up to go alongside that boom in the PSA 10 slot. So yeah, it's definitely interesting that the Steelix is doing relatively well, and it's doing pretty steady between the raw market price and TCG Player, which we don't normally see. So that's actually quite nice. And yeah, doing very well, especially if you get a 10. Overall, home run card, this one. Then we're going into some Sword and Shield. We've got my Boyente. So, you know, we've got a few Sword and Shield to look through as well. Not just always Scarlet and Violet, but Scarlet and Violet I've got loads, but there was a few I went through today. My Boyente, as you can see from Crown Zenith is getting a bit tricky to get hold of. Things get a little bit more expensive. We start to see a lot of the raw cards shift up in value, but it's interesting because this card has been heavily graded, and even in the PSA 10 there's a lot of them out there, but it's still $90. Right, as you can see, the raw market price is about $20 for this card. And we're looking at $90. That's really, really impressive. You know, this is definitely a card which I like. I have in my collection, one of my favorite cards from the set. I'm going to have to send this off to get graded. You know what I mean? I'm going to have to send this off to PSA, hoping for that 10. Because you're looking at, what, more than 4 times the value? That's actually pretty good. You know, and as we can see over the last few months, it really has climbed. I don't know if the raw price has, you know, climbed with it. So yeah, the raw price got up a little bit, but then it dipped back down. So overall, my Boyente doing well. Then we got Raichu. So we got Raichu as well from Crown Zenith, another one of the arts, if you were going to say it like that. So again, we're looking around the same price raw, around that $20 mark. But again, PSA 10, $93, 3,500 in a 10. Really, really good. Even a 9 is not bad, right? 9 is more, as we saw from the Scarlet and Violet. 9 was basically the same as the raw price. But with these, the 9 is a little bit more than the raw price. So it doesn't sting just as much if you do get it in a 9, if you do grade it. But a lot of them very, you know, good. I say consistent, but a high amount in a 10. And the fact it's nearly doubled in value in a PSA 10 is very, very impressive. And then we've got the Suicune to finish off out of these cards. And this one's my favourite. I do like Entei, but this one is my favourite. Again, around $20, 92 in a PSA 10, nearly 4,000 of them. So again, this is another card, as we've seen, has climbed up, and I think it will continue to climb. Even though Crown Zenith is, you know, widely opened, you know, there's always been a ton of product around. Pull rates are good. A lot of these cards are going up in that PSA 10 slot because they're just big fan favorite. Right, moving on with Sword and Shield, we have the Articuno, my all-time favorite card from the whole of the Sword and Shield era, from Chill and Rain. This one's been going up, right? Not only in the raw price, we could take a look at the raw price to give you guys an idea. So the raw price was going around $30, $40 for the longest time. TCG player, and the raw price kind of broke away. TCG players going around, you know, up around that $70 odd mark, and both have dipped down between that 40 to 50 range. And then we're looking at 150 in a PSA 10, so 3 times the value in a PSA 10, and it has gone up over time in that PSA 10 slot. There we go. We can see that it's gone from 80 up to where it's at the moment, 152. So it's nearly doubled in value. It actually went a little bit higher at one point at 180, but there you go. Articuno has doubled in value. I do have one graded, but it's not a 10. I think I got an 8, which is kind of brutal. First print run of Chill and Rain is always savage, and that's basically what happens. So an 8 is only $31. Not great, but yeah, PSA 10, very, very good. Keeping with Chill and Rain, we got the Shadow Rider Calyrex. This one is just doing very well across the board. So we look at this one, right? We're looking around $100 raw. Not cheap, you know, it's not a cheap card, but you're going to be doubling your money in a PSA 10. Only 1,500, which is actually less than a lot of them. So we look at the raw price, and we've seen this card climb. Nearly basically doubled in value, right? It was around that $40, $50. TCG players just kind of in a world of its own there, whereas the market price was $40 difference. And now they're pretty much neck and neck, but that's actually crazy. But yeah, so overall, you know, the raw price has been going up, which has caused the graded prices to rise. And, you know, doubled in value is very good. You know, they were looking at $70, $80 in a PSA 10 6 months ago, and now it's pushing around that $200 mark. 3 times the value pretty much in 6 months, sorry, which is very, very good. Right, we're going back to Scarlet and Violet. We've got the routes this time. This is an illustration rare from base set. You know, Scarlet and Violet base, you're thinking not very great, right? Look at this. This is absolutely crazy. So $15 raw, $240 in a 10. Wild. Absolutely wild. PSA 9 is $20. So that is a huge jump. Very difficult by the looks of it compared to the others to get a PSA 10. And the graded price really does show. We saw like this huge spike that has happened recently over the past month or so, 2 months. So yeah, this card was plodding along even without the jump. $100 to $120 in a PSA 10 for a card that's worth $15 is insanely good. And it's just gotten even more crazy. So yeah, it's pretty bonkers. We've got the Charmander from 151. We could take a look at a couple of cards here from 151. So we have the Charmander, beautiful illustration rare. A lot of the illustration rares from 151 have done relatively well, like holding their value. A lot of the graded versions of these are going up, whereas the special illustration rares are actually going down. So a lot of the SIRs in a 10 are actually dropping, whereas the illustration rares are actually going up. So as we can see here, quite a lot of this card has been graded. You know, 1,500 in a 10, over 2K in a 9, so very heavily graded card. You know, you get a card price roughly around that $30 range on average, $25 to $30 range for the Charmander. But look at the PSA 10 price though. Even though there's 1500 and this card's been heavily graded, $165. You know, you're 5 times in your money, or more than 5 times in your money in a PSA 10. In a 9, kind of sucks. But in a 10 though, very, very good. And even if you look at the PSA 10 price, you know, over the last few months, you know, it's been steady. It's not like it's had this big boom or anything like that. It's just been a very, very good, consistent card. And we've seen that actually, but it goes to show the strength of 151, right? This set has been heavily opened, right? It's getting harder and harder to get hold of the sealed product until the reprints are coming later in the year. But a lot of these cards have just hold their value and done very, very well and are going up in like this Charizard, like this Charmander, for example. Then we're going to be looking at the Hisan Grow, one of the new cards from Twilight Masquerade. This is one of the illustration rares that pairs up with the pairing, and it makes a beautiful little combo. $10 for this card. That's it, just 10. In a PSA 10 price, as it stands, is 70. So 7x your money, 7 times your money. Very, very good. I do expect it to potentially drop with more and more people open up Twilight Masquerade, and more people going out and grading this card. But because pull rates are so tough, even for the normal illustration rares, you know, it has a big impact. I mean, we saw it with the Nin Tales, you know, from Obsidian Flames. Not the best set, but look how good that card's doing in the PSA 10. Growlithe could be the same in the future. Who knows? Already it's doing very well at 7 times your money with it falling. It was around $90 when it came out. So $100, $90. So yeah, doing relatively well. Keep an eye out for this one. And then finally today we have the Chansey from Twilight Masquerade. Again, another illustration rare doing relatively well. You know, you look around $15 or so on average for this card. And look at it in a PSA 10, $114. In a 9, it's just $25. Not the best. Well, actually nearly double the value, but $114 in a 10. Again, crazy, beautiful artwork. It goes to show that a lot of illustration rares in the Scarlet and Violet era, now I didn't cover all of them today, but a lot of them do very well if they do get a 10. Of course, it is tougher, but the rewards are so high. There you have it, guys. Those are just some cards from Scarlet and Violet era and Sword and Shield era that you can send off to get graded and get good returns if they come back in a 10. Of course, Sword and Shield is a little bit easier than Scarlet and Violet. A lot of people have said Scarlet and Violet cards are a lot tougher. That means they're just going to hold better value. Just straight up. That means they're going to hold better value. There's going to be less of them around. And even if you look at the Sword and Shield era, a lot of cards that got heavily graded in a PSA 10 do still fetch a pretty hefty price tag, especially some of the more big old arts and stuff like that. So even if we've had high pop caps of these cards, they're doing very well, right? And we're going to be seeing that with Scarlet and Violet, with a lot of these tough cards to get 10s, they're going to hold relatively well. And we're seeing $10 cards going for $150 to $200 in a 10. It's just absolutely crazy. So get out there, send them off to PSA, and hopefully you get some 10s. If it's far to the video and you've enjoyed it, make sure to smash that like button, make sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content. And guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Have you picked up any of these cards, and have you graded any of these? And did they come back as 10s? Or did you get any others that are 10s that are worth some good dosh? Because there's definitely some cards out there that we didn't cover today, which also have good returns, especially from the Scarlet and Violet era. I have a bunch of cards myself that I'm going to be looking to send off to PSA later on this year. And I hope they come back as a 10, because some of these are just absolutely crazy. But that's it from me, guys, in today's video. If you want more Pokemon content, make sure to click the video on the screen, and of course make sure to hit that subscribe button. But as always, you guys are legends, and I'll see you in the next one.